The AI tsunami is pounding our shores. It is bigger, faster, and more powerful than anything I could have imagined even a year ago. Staggering sums of money are being invested in advancing the technology and the infrastructure. We are witnessing a moment in history, the dawn of the next industrial revolution powered by artificial intelligence. AI is reshaping the very foundations of business. Existing strategies around value creation, competitive advantage, and talent management are no longer sufficient. We need a new business logic to win in the AI era. We need to reinvent our businesses from the ground up. That is what I call recoding business in the age of AI. The contours of the AI revolution are already being drawn. Let me give you a few examples. Imagine this. You've got a disease called a blood disorder called Poems syndrome. There is no known cure for it. You're in the hospital, the doctors have tried everything they know how to try, and then the doctor walks into your office and says, you have just one decision left to make. And that decision is, do you want to die in the hospital or do you want to die at home? Every time I tell this story, I tear up. This guy's girlfriend didn't give up. She wrote to Dr. Fajgenbaum at the University of Pennsylvania, who's a rare disease expert, and said, help. 10 hours later, this was late one evening, 10 hours later in the morning, she gets an email, have your boyfriend try this combination of immunotherapy, chemotherapy, and steroids. And lo and behold, he's in remission, and he's still alive today. Dr. Fajgenbaum then started this company called a nonprofit called Every Cure, and he has already repurposed 14 drugs. I want to talk about this for a moment. There are 18,000 diseases known to humans and 4,000 drugs, so you can imagine what the shortfall of treatments is. Pharmaceutical companies have no incentive to find treatments for rare disease, which are basically less than 200,000 people have this illness. How many drugs are hiding in plain sight? That is the question we need to address, and AI provides the answer because Dr. Fajgenbaum and his team have built a platform that processes all these drugs and all the diseases to find solutions, and they have found, like I said, 14 repurposed drugs that are now helping thousands more patients. This is what I mean by recoding business in the age of AI. We can do better, we can advance the frontier of medicine if we deploy the technology appropriately. Let's talk about a different domain. As we know, the last 10 years on record have been the warmest the planet has ever seen. In fact, last year was one of the warmest ever. But we still don't know where the coastal floods are going to be. We don't know where the wildfires are going to be. We don't know where areas of extreme drought are going to be. The problem is analyzing and predicting climate, different from weather, is a very, very hard challenge. It demands supercomputing capability and theories from atmospheric physics. But those theories don't go far enough because there's sub-processes within the atmosphere that we don't completely understand. So these scientists use approximation techniques to build into their theory-driven physics models to predict what might happen to the climate. And like I said, computer intensive, lots of error. So this team started working by integrating AI into the physics models, and lo and behold, they're able to get much more accurate predictions of the climate at far lower computer intensive use. It's startling sort of how little they need in terms of computing resources, and with far lower error rates. Now, one of the things that's most important about climate prediction is you need to run these things called ensemble forecasts, which is you're predicting all the time. And this is, you generate millions of forecasts to be able to predict the climate, to find sort of where you think you're most comfortable with the prediction. This is what we can do now. This is what we could not do yesterday. This is recoding business in the age of AI. And let me give you a fun example, a very different example. Let's talk about history. Human history, the study of history, is born in writing. So if you think about the Rosetta Stone, which was about understanding what Egyptian hieroglyphs actually said, they were lucky enough to find the Rosetta Stone, which basically had the same writings inscripted on stone in Egyptian hieroglyphs, one more Semitic languages, and also ancient Greek. And that allowed them to understand hieroglyphs and gave us huge insights into Egyptian civilizations of the past. But what happens if these inscriptions, as they often are broken? These are stones for the most part, right? And over the years, they've been shattered. So what you have in a picture like this one is one side is what they found, and the other side didn't exist. And they have used generative AI to predict what these inscriptions are actually saying. So they complete the script, B, they place it in time, and C, they place it in context. And all of a sudden, we are now able to study Roman civilization better than we could ever before and understand what Julius Caesar was doing. And apparently, the Romans loved to write, so there's plenty of text to be analyzed. This, my friends, is recoding business in the age of AI. We can advance the technology frontier no matter what the domain of human activity is. Let's step back a little bit. Big tech, as we all know, is in a $1 trillion arms race. The big four companies alone have spent $400 billion in the last 2 years. McKinsey estimates global spending on AI and AI infrastructure is going to be $7 trillion by 2030. These are massive amounts of investment that are being made in AI. What are they doing with this money? Of course, they invest in infrastructure, and they are also investing in advancing the models, and they are hurtling towards superintelligence. So superintelligence is, of course, this concept where the machines are smarter than humans. And I chose this word hurtling on purpose because they are not just racing towards superintelligence. One of the things that I'm left with is I worry that there is not enough attention being paid to the risks of building an AI this powerful. And so it is incumbent on us to be careful stewards of the technology that we are building. They are locked in a battle for AI supremacy. This is what we call a winner-take-most competition. At the end of the day, at the end of the battle, there will only be a handful of companies left standing. And they see great rewards at the end of this battle, and this is why they are all invested so aggressively in this competition. Mark Zuckerberg actually said it best. He said, when he was asked about the massive spending that Meta was engaged in, he said, I would rather have the misfortune of spending, and I paraphrase, an extra $200 billion. I'm going to pause there, $200 billion, rather than be on the wrong side of that bet, which be out of position in the AI race, because I believe that AI will be the biggest driver of value creation that humankind has ever seen. That is the bet they are making. That is something we should pay attention to. But what does this all mean for us? AI is fundamentally about humans and AI making each other smarter. We train the AI. The AI gives us insights into what we should be doing. Every one of the examples that I gave you, the AI was trained by humans. Humans get more insights, and then we can train the AI better. But more importantly, in the short run, we act on this new knowledge that we are being given, and this new knowledge allows us to build better products, better services, new ways of doing things, new inventions, all of which ultimately drive productivity upward. It is accelerating the discovery of new knowledge. This is a company called Lila.ai in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And not only are they using AI to generate new research hypotheses, after scouring the literature using generative AI, they have built a robotic test lab where they come up with the hypothesis, design the experiment, and run a robotic lab experiment to reject or confirm the hypothesis. We are accelerating the discovery of new knowledge at a pace that we have never seen before. So not only is it helping us, it is accelerating the pace of discovery. And they describe themselves as building scientific superintelligence, and they're focused in the fields of chemistry and pharma. And they're a unicorn, by the way. And ultimately, when we develop better products and services, new and novel ways of doing things, we get huge gains in productivity. So this is not fundamentally about improving a process in our organizations, though certainly we should take advantage of the opportunities. This is about invention of new products, new services, and new ways of doing things. AI is a general purpose technology. Now, general purpose technology has multiple dimensions. One, it has to be accelerating in its development. Clearly, AI meets that criteria. It has to have widespread use. And this is a picture of Gemini 2.5. And if you look at the structure of it, there's a whole powerful engine under it. But the top layer is the various domains that it can be applied to. And that is what gives it its power to be applied to domain after domain after domain. And the third dimension, which is the most important, is that it must spawn innovation. And clearly, we're seeing how AI is doing all of that. And I want you to think about it in the following way. When electricity, the steam engine, were also considered general purpose technologies. And what they did was they changed how production should be organized. They allowed for these sprawling organizations exploiting economies of scale, and the companies that got that right accelerated in productivity and therefore ultimately in success. But AI is a bit different. It certainly has that feature as well, but what it also has is that it is like a microscope. It is a general purpose microscope, because the microscope, when it was invented, accelerated the discovery of new microstructures that the human eye couldn't see, and it improved our scientific understanding of the world. AI is doing that, but it is doing that in every single knowledge domain. Now think about the possibilities when you have a technology that is both a technology of productivity, asks for different organization structures that will allow you to drive benefits more significantly, but then it also helps us generate the new ideas that we can then scale. That is the power of AI. I believe that AI will transform the economy and society. And you're looking at this image and saying, why is Vijay talking about AirPods? Because this is something that, do I really believe that this is a technology that's going to transform the economy and society? And the short answer is yes, I do. Because think about this. This is something that I remember when people used to wear to the gym with their old iPods that had a little white wire going into your ear. And now we have evolved it to the point where not only is it wireless, it is digitized, and now it has Apple Intelligence built in. So think about this. Somebody speaks to you in French and Spanish, pick a language, and you are hearing it in your ears in the language that you're most comfortable with, in this case, English. And for most purposes, that's really good. And then if the other person has AirPods Pro 3 is the model, you can have this real-time conversation in 2 different languages. Now, if you grow up in a country like mine, which 25 official languages where I speak 2, this is very useful. And if you think about the world, it is incredibly useful. But it doesn't even stop there. It is now a built-in hearing aid. We all know people who are embarrassed, or I don't know what the right word is, not happy about wearing hearing aids because they don't want to show that they're aging. But you know the problem with that? It raises your risk of dementia. And so now if you wear something that everybody wears and nobody will look twice at you because you're wearing AirPods, all of a sudden we solved a different problem. Again, these are personalized hearing aids based on what it knows about you. and so that it takes your specific shortfalls in hearing and adjusts for that. And doesn't even stop there. This thing detects your heart rate, detects pulse. Think about this. You're wearing an AirPod, and now they're linking it to health fitness. It is, we can talk about self-driving cars, and we can talk about drone delivery, we can talk about some fantastic applications of AI, but this is the way ultimately general purpose technologies work their way into our lives. Slowly, in ways that we don't notice, and ultimately transforming the way we live. So it's not just an economic boost, it transforms society as well. I firmly believe that AI is driving a new industrial revolution. This is a picture of the US, obviously, and this is where all the data centers and the massive AI infrastructure is going in. This is the power grid of the future. Now, of course, with AI, the power grid is also expanding alongside the AI infrastructure. But I mentioned the hundreds of billions of dollars that are being invested in AI. These are country-level investments, bigger than the GDPs of many countries, and they are being made by companies. This is why I say that this is the new industrial revolution. This is the world that we are in for. But, there's always a but. Industrial revolutions create new winners and losers. This is a picture of London in the late 19th century. Now, London was the center of a global empire at that period of time. It was a thriving metropolis, probably the most important city in the world. And it still is an important city, of course. But and what did they do right? They captured the technologies of the first and second industrial revolution: steam, electricity, internal combustion engine, steel, and they built an entire economy around that, and it was the envy of the world. But then as time passed on, it was the US and Japan and Germany that sort of scaled. The US had the advantage of bigger markets and able to invest aggressively in the technology investments that it took to build these giant corporations, and slowly they started pulling ahead. Since the computer revolution, it has been the US that has dominated the world economy because they got this general purpose technology right. They learned how to exploit it. We learned how to exploit it, and we are doing as well as we are because we learned how to do that and did that extraordinarily well. And now when we talk about the AI industrial revolution, this is right now the race seems to be between the US and China. But I think there's a lot of other countries that are trying to play. And again, you have to think about what race do they want to be in. Japan is making very strong moves in this area as well. But we have to think about the fact that the world of the future is very, very different, and what can we do to compete in it? So I like to say the real race, we can read, the media likes to talk about trillion-dollar investments. Venture capitalists love to tell us that we're all going to be extinct in a few years. And they've got reasons for saying these things, and who knows what the truth really is. Yes, there will be a lot of wrenching transformations in the economy. I would urge you to stay focused on what it is you do. Think about your company, what it does, how you can do that better, what the transformation means for your industry, and what you personally need to do to make sure that you are as valuable or more valuable by leveraging the technology. So at the center, we developed a transformation framework. It's got 5 dimensions: vision, know-how, technology, talent and work, and education. We call this our flywheel. And at the center, there's an operating model that makes it spin faster and faster and faster. AI, because it is a general purpose technology, is not a technology that you just impose into your organizations or you superimpose into your organization. It requires transformation. You remember I talked about complementary innovation? That's what I meant. We have to make this technology our own. We have to train our labor force. We have to redesign processes. We have to redesign the structure. We have to redesign the operating model to operate at the pace of AI. let me talk about a few examples that will illustrate what this framework really means in practice. I'm going to give you a very simple example of a veterinary practice and how they envisioned a future that was possible in a software-driven economy powered by AI that was not possible before. Now, for those of you who've got pets, you know that the veterinary experience is broken. And animals hate being taken to the vet. They sense it somehow. Don't ask me how, but they always know when they're going to the vet, not for a walk. So they built a software-driven model. This is a company called Dr. Treat. Two office clinic in San Francisco. Started small, but they started like a concierge service for animals, believe it or not. Subscription model. Telehealth, very important. And that's how they got started, and they began with this new customer experience. But what do we really care about when we take it? Human customer experience really doesn't matter that much when it's your pet's health at stake. So how do you get better health outcomes for your pets? So they went out. It turns out that, for example, let's say you have a yellow lab. Your vet might not have seen very many yellow labs, and so cannot advise you on what to do with that particular breed if it's got some unusual ailment. They bought an insurance company database that they have now analyzed and come up with their own recommendations. So when you meet with the vet, he or she asks you some questions, you answer, and the AI system is prompting them with ask this, ask that, making recommendations, making diagnosis. All of a sudden, they have raised the production frontier. So you have to imagine, what can I do better than I could do before? Then I want to talk about know-how, which was the second dimension on my platform. At the end of the day, to succeed, you have to know how to do something better than your competitors. Every company that succeeds does something better than their customers. So let's talk about Ralph Lauren for a moment. It's the iconic fashion house. It's sort of the epicenter of American fashion. They clothe the US Olympic team, Team USA. They just came out. So they get a lot right, by the way. But one of the things I want to focus on here is know-how. They just came up with an AI tool called Ask Ralph. Basically saying, what would Ralph do in this situation? What would he wear? What's a good look? Are white pants acceptable after Labor Day? He says yes. But think about, they've got 55 years of brand assets, and they are able to understand this, not just to design the new fashions, but to tell us what to wear, like what goes with what, what's the look I'm going for. By the way, they declared these blowout financial results past year, and they're attributing it to AI. The other thing that they do, because this is the fun part, is the operational stuff. That's the hard work of running a retail business. And they brought a lot of the technology back in-house because they said, we need to understand the insights that we are getting from this data. So what should the pricing models be? What are the conversion rates? All of the things that retail businesses have to be good at. They realize that this know-how is so important to us that it's not that you cannot work with a vendor to sort of build some of the models for you, but you really need to own the know-how that makes your company uniquely successful. In contrast, you've got companies like Mattel that are partnering with OpenAI because they want to make their toys interactive. So now you can talk to your Barbie, you can talk to your Hot Wheels car, and you can engage in sort of conversation that a child might have. They're designed to be educational and informative. It's interactive. And they're also building safety and privacy into these because obviously these are children that we want to make sure are protected. But every company that you can think about has to answer this question. What is my AI ecosystem? Where am I going to get the capabilities from? What am I going to do myself? What am I going to partner for? Do I need to make an acquisition? All of these things, there is no dodging this because this economy is increasingly an AI economy. And we all have to think about where we're getting these capabilities from. This one's really, really important. I like to say that the path to productivity is through the workplace, which is all of us. Walmart, which is the biggest employer in the world, 2.1 million employees, their CEO, Doug McMillon, literally last week said, AI is going to change literally every job. Job transformation is where it's at. We have to figure out how the workforce of today becomes the workforce of tomorrow. I want you to think about it in this way. AI doesn't do jobs, AI does tasks. Every job consists of tasks. So there are some tasks that AI will do better than humans. There are some tasks that humans will do better than AI. And there's many tasks where humans benefit from AI. That's what we call augmentation. The replacement is what we call automation. Clearly, there's going to be some of both. But I like to believe that we are building AI for humans, and we're not building AI to make AI happy and humans unhappy. And I think this is sort of a really important distinction to keep in mind, because that is the purpose of technology, to make our lives better. But the transformation that we have to go through to migrate a workforce to the workforce of the future is one of the most challenging things we have to do, because reskilling is not easy. Accenture said politely that they were going to exit people who didn't keep up. Walmart said that they're seeing significant growth in the years ahead, but they think they can do this with fewer people. With the same amount of people. They're being very careful with their language. This is huge. And you saw that Moderna's chief human resources officer is now also the chief digital officer, because they brought these two functions together, because that is where AI really makes a difference. It's about making the workforce more productive. And underlying it all, you can't do any of this unless you educate the entire workforce around AI. And it's just not how to use the technology. It is really about understanding how the technology works, what problems it can solve well, what are the high-value problems, where is the 95% accuracy good enough. Let's use the AI we have now to make a change, and let's not wait for perfection. But this, you cannot do any of what I'm talking about until you sort of think about education. And then ultimately, if you remember, operating model was in the center. This is Reuters. This is Paul Reuter, by the way. Reuters' entire identity is built on being first. Because when you break the news, that's proprietary. If you are second with the news, that is no longer proprietary. So their challenge, actually, is a funny, interesting story. It's been their identity from the start. Reuters got started because Paul Reuter himself saw an opportunity when the telegraph wires ended in Aachen, Germany, and picked up again in Brussels. There was no telegraph from Aachen to Brussels because of the geopolitics of the time. And he figured out that if he picked up the wire in Aachen, sent it by carrier pigeon to Brussels, he could outperform the railways. He could go faster than the trains. And think about it, when you're trying to invest on breaking news in the stock market, this is really important. So he got to start with carrier pigeons, and from there, he has built this company that has been built on speed. And what Reuters gets right is they are making very different bets from many other media organizations. What makes you different in the media business? You have to have the news that nobody else has. So they are investing in news gathering technology. They are investing in analytics. So when an event happens, they can run all the analytics and find the trends and report on it in a story. And to my surprise, they are investing in writing, because a lot of media organizations will say, oh, we're going to protect the writers. Reuters says, no, every second counts. I need to be first. And there are certain processes where they've taken the time to market from 85 seconds to, I think, 31 seconds. That is how acutely aware they are of the importance of timeliness. So you put all of these things together, you have a model or a business for the future. But the journey's not going to be easy. There's going to be many potholes on the way. We have to navigate these obstacles as we move forward. So let's start with some of the risks. This is HAL 9000 from 2001, A Space Odyssey. By the way, the beauty of digital, you can still watch this movie on Netflix. What's fascinating about this is this was a mission to outer space, and the AI, HAL, malfunctions, and the next thing you know, decides that the humans are in his way of actually executing this the space mission, believes that this is what the humans on Earth would still want, essentially kills the humans and pursues the mission. This is what we call the misalignment problem, when it believes that humans are in the way of this mission because it didn't fully actually understand the nuances of the mission. This is why Geoffrey Hinton, considered the godfather of AI, saying we can't build all the rules for this, so we have to code the maternal instinct into robots, because that is the one species, I don't even know what the right word is here, it's the one human type that will not kill somebody less intelligent if it needs to, because babies are very good at making sure the mothers do whatever it takes to help them survive. And it's sort of interesting that the godfather of AI now believes this. We know that AI has a trust problem. We talk about security, fairness, intellectual property, social impact. There's any number of these things. We're going to need new governance to manage this. I want to focus on one of them. The impact on workers is going to be absolutely profound. It's changing jobs like we talked about, but we have to understand that there's humans that we're talking about. We can talk in the abstract about statistics. They're scared. Some are excited. And we've got research at the center that shows software development productivity is going up. The paper Canary in the Coal Mine out of Stanford basically shows that the hiring has frozen in some domains that are particularly amenable to AI. So we need to be honest about what this technology is doing and assure our workforces of their paths to the future. And I do believe that education around AI is critical to this. And in case you think it's just knowledge workers, meet Viviana. Viviana is an AI-generated model that Guess, the jeans company, used in an ad in Vogue. And if you think first of all, other than the standards this creates that our teens are going to find very difficult to meet because of what AI can do, think about how many other jobs are lost. Dress designers and costumers and makeup artists and hairstylists and photographers, all their jobs are gone when you start using AI-based models. So this, like I said, is going to be a wrenching transformation. The risk of cyber threats has never been higher. It's expanding the attack surface, and AI is giving cyber criminals, which are increasingly nations, the tools to attack. So this is something that we have to pay a huge amount of attention to. So at the end of the day, good governance is key at all levels of society. It begins with government, has to be in corporations, educations. How we teach AI has to reflect the principles of good governance. This is absolutely important if we are to get the benefits of AI, but manage the downside risks of the technology. There's plenty of predictions about when a general purpose technology pays off. In the case of the steam engine, it was 61 years, comes down, 32 for electricity, 15 for PCs and the internet. And now the predictions are 7 years for AI, starting in 2023. So we should start seeing a significant productivity payoff in 2030. Now this is where it's important to recognize that we read these numbers and we think about this as a timeline. And yes, you academics are interested in things like this, but you have to remember that you are in this race. You determine whether we get the productivity in 7 years or whether we get the productivity in 3 years or 30 years or never get it at all. That's on all of us. It is not on the technology providers. They're building the technology, but it's the widespread diffusion that gives us the productivity results that we are seeking that we're looking for to make ourselves more successful, make our companies more successful, and make our countries more successful. So I'd like to end with a quote from Mahatma Gandhi, the father of India, who said, "The future depends on what you do today." And I thought it was a very powerful statement because what he was basically saying, the past is gone. There's nothing you can do about the past. The future is yet to come. And if you wait for the future, then the technology advances even faster and you are further and further behind. So what you really have to do is seize the opportunity now, what you can do today. Act now, redefine the future, your company's future, your country's future, and yes, the world's future. Thank you very much.